Following Britain's passage of the Unpopular Stamp Act of 1765, clandestine organizations called the Sons and Daughters of Liberty formed throughout the American colonies. The women organized boycotts of British goods, and in some cases, they made their own substitutes, like herbal beverages called Liberty Tea, while the men held assemblies and distributed propaganda to sway readers' opinions against Parliament. Members were careful not to produce a paper trail, as plotting against Parliament was considered treasonous. American colonists likewise protested the Townshend Revenue Act of 1767, which had imposed taxes on various items. They boycotted British goods, harassed British officials, and vandalized British property. After British troops arrived in October 1768 to quell the uprising, tensions between American patriots and those loyal to the British Crown increased. By early 1770, the Sons of Liberty in Boston began threatening local merchants who continued to sell British goods and verbally attacked their customers. On March 5th, a rumor spread that British soldiers claimed that they weren't afraid to defend themselves in case of an attack. That evening, an angry mob stormed the soldiers' barracks. Meanwhile, a melee involving colonists outside of the British government office led to the killing of 5 colonists, including CRISPUS ATTUCKS, a black sailor and former slave. ATTUCKS' death is considered the first of the American Revolution. The episode was called a horrid massacre by the Boston Gazette. A trial of the soldiers was held. In perhaps an ironic twist, the American patriot John Adams was part of the legal team defending the soldiers. Ultimately, all but 2 of the soldiers were found not guilty. The 2 who were convicted of manslaughter were sentenced to have their thumbs branded with a hot iron. At a town meeting on November 2, 1772, Boston leader Samuel Adams, fueled by colonial dissatisfaction, appointed 21 men to a new committee known as the Committee of Correspondence. 80 similar groups quickly emerged across Massachusetts, and by the end of 1773, 10 colonial legislatures appointed their own committees to articulate colonial rights, provide leadership, and help the colonies work together. Passing messages between the colonies and writing media that supported the Patriot cause, the Committees of Correspondence helped unify the 13 colonies and led to the formation of the First Continental Congress. The committees became of increasing importance as the colonies unified in protest against British taxation without representation. Tensions around taxation came to a boiling point in Boston in the autumn of 1773, when the colonists, particularly the Sons of Liberty, protested the Tea Act of 1773. The Tea Act levied taxes on all of the colonists as soon as any shipment of tea touched the shore. Accepting any tea shipment would thus mean accepting British taxation without any representation in Parliament. In November, some 5,000 Bostonians prevented ships from unloading their cargoes of tea. Then on December 16, 1773, colonial rebels, known as the Sons of Liberty, disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians, boarded the ships, politely requested keys to the cargo hold, and used tomahawks and axes to destroy 342 chests of tea, worth $1 million today, and then threw all the tea into the harbor. Britain punished the colonies' disregard of British law in this Boston Tea Party by passing the Coercive Acts. Though most of the laws pertained only to Boston, 2 of them, the Administration of Justice Act and the Quartering Act, applied to all 13 colonies. Among other things, the acts closed Boston's ports until the value of the tea was repaid, allowed British soldiers charged with capital offense to be tried in England rather than the American colonies, and allowed colonial governors to house British troops in any unoccupied buildings in the colonies. Opposition to the act spread across the colonies, and the Committees of Correspondence of 12 colonies, all minus Georgia, agreed to discuss a unified response to the Coercive Acts in the First Continental Congress in September 1774.